Welcome back to BLOCKTV, where it's time now for Crypto Crunch with one of the leading voices in the sphere, a man who gives us his sage wisdom on all the hottest topics across the crypto space. I'm talking about Lou Kerner of Crypto Oracle and the man behind Crypto Mondays. Lou, thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, Asher, good to see you.
All right, so Lou, kicking off this week, I want to have a bit of a conversation about DeFi, decentralized finance, which recently hit a pretty dramatic new milestone with now 2.7 million ETH locked up in DeFi applications. We've seen the launch of multi-collateral DAI. It seems to be a growing space, but Lou, I want to get your take on it all. What's your take on DeFi and its growth and development so far?
Sure. So yeah, I'm super excited. I think that the first killer app of crypto is or was speculation in Asia, and that's exciting. And we saw the massive value built by folks like Binance and BitMEX, and now I really think that DeFi is emerging as kind of the second killer app in crypto. And I think that we'll look back at the introduction of multi-collateral DAI last week as really kind of a seminal moment in DeFi. The governance is working well for the decentralized governance is working well for Maker at the moment. And really by Maker now having both kind of collateralization and credit generation, and with the DAI savings rate, they now really have all the pieces they need to create this economic engine. In some ways, you can look at them like a central bank, and look at others like Compound, who's the biggest lender of DAI now, as a commercial bank. And I really think you now have the pieces in place, and we're now starting to get enough Lego pieces you can start putting on top of each other, that I think we're going to start to see this tremendous innovation in DeFi, and I think it's very, very exciting.
Looking at the current state of the market, however, I mean, obviously we've seen a bit of a downturn over the last few months. There are those that say that when it comes to the DeFi space specifically, there is some of that greater liquidity needed out there in order to be able to get the sort of adoption in DeFi that people are looking for. What do you say to that argument? Do you think the price of ETH is important, given it's the underlying asset for so much of the DeFi space?
Yeah, well, look, it's certainly important. I think that this is all still very small volumes, but the growth is really significant. And I think while certainly the price in crypto, I'm a believer in what Warren Buffett says. In the short term, the prices of these assets it's like a voting machine when you look at it. So how do people feel today about these things? In the longer term, though, Buffett says that they're weighing machines. How are these things actually performing? And what are these things actually generating? And so, in the short term, we're going to continue to see a lot of volatility. And I think that it's important that people, recognize that the market is a signal, but the market isn't truth about the health of the industry. And I have a joke that I have a great word that I use to describe the tendency of markets to become bubbles and crash and become bubbles again. And the word I use to describe that phenomenon is capitalism. And so that's what markets do. And it's hard, if you're a day trader, not to obviously get very, very caught up in the day-to-day movements. But again, if you take a long-term view of things, I think things are looking very good.
Now, certainly, there does seem to be an upward trend across DeFi as a whole looking forward. And in doing so, looking towards, as we're standing at the end of 2019, looking into 2020, I mean, we kicked off this year in 2019 with DeFi an absolute infant. Now it seems to be up and walking around. As I said, that 2.7 million Ethereum locked up into various DeFi applications. Looking forward through 2020, what sort of growth do you anticipate, particularly given we now have the likes of multi-collateral DAI out there set to change the game?
Yeah, so I mean, what's super interesting, obviously, about multi-collateral DAI, they added the BAT, but what's going to be next? And when are they going to start adding real world assets like gold and other things that you'll be able to use as collateral? I mean, the future, the innovation that's going to come, in my view, is the most exciting things. I think it's when we're able to offer the market products that they really can't get anyplace else. And I think we're now, again, putting the pieces in place to really get those kinds of applications, those kinds of things that investors can't get anywhere else. and kind of like junk bonds. That's how I look at it. One day there weren't junk bonds, and then Mike Milken created junk bonds, and all of the other investment banks said it was garbage and they would never do it. Today, 40 years later, junk bonds is traded just like everything else. And I think, when we look back, that's how we'll look at crypto in 40 years. It's just going to be another asset on the shelf being sold like everything else. But I think, where it's being sold and where it's being traded, quite often will be in decentralized exchanges.
All right, well, you've segued us neatly there into our next topic of conversation, Lou, which is those decentralized exchanges and the growth that has been seen in volume there, still making up a relatively small percentage of the market, but given its own year-on-year growth, looking not too bad.
Look, I think what the biggest problem that the decentralized exchanges have suffered from is liquidity. And now we see companies like Uniswap really coming up with solutions for that by having everybody on Uniswap has to put up an equal amount of ETH with whatever ERC20 token that they want to enable trading in, and they can make fees off of those trades. And by that kind of staking, they create this significant liquidity pool that's enabling the volume growth that we're seeing. I mean, 100% week over week growth, albeit off a very small base. It's not even $80 million a week in volume yet. But you don't have to get too many weeks out at 50%, 100% growth, where it can start to be something very meaningful.
What do you say about concerns? I remember back earlier this year, Bitwise, when they released their infamous report about wash trading and manipulative trading in the market, they singled out decentralized exchanges as being at high risk for particularly front-running the practice of getting ahead of various trades using manipulations on mining fees and how you go about enacting your trades, getting ahead of other parts of the market and effectively getting small profits off the market, which is much more accessible in a decentralized exchange where you can trade at your own rate with no centralized authorities or concerns. Does that sort of manipulative trading practice, is that a concern for the decentralized exchange market? Do you think it risks damaging the industry?
I think it's always got to be a concern. And, we're in the very early days and you're going to get bad actors. But as these systems get better and better, I think that'll be less of an issue over time.
You think simply it's a matter of the technology catching up with the interests, as it were?
Sure. Look, it's always a cat and mouse game, right? There are always going to be bad guys trying to manipulate the market, and there'll always be new ways to do it, and they'll be addressed. I often describe life as one long series of plane crashes that you correct for, so you hopefully don't have the same one twice. So it's still very early days, but there's a lot of, if you read on crypto Twitter, as this kind of last market fall, I've seen a lot of people really struggle to keep the faith. And it's when I see progress like this, like multi-collateral DAI, like what's going on with Uniswap, that's what enables me to keep the faith.
Right, and so that's an interesting point right there, because there were some that said that particularly even during the 2017 boom, that actually in terms of true innovation and development in the space, there was a stagnation as speculators took control of the marketplace, and that there was a bit of a stagnation. And actually, it was the bear market of 2018 that allowed developers to really get back in, do the groundwork that's needed to help actually on the development side of things when it comes to the technology. Do you buy into that narrative at all? And how do you feel generally about the sort of development and technological side of the crypto space?
I agree with that completely. I think, every new industry, obviously people compare this to the internet. Are we in 92, 93, 94? Where are we in terms of the internet's growth? And, I was there, in the early days of internet video in 2000 when the experience sucked. And, it wasn't until 2005 that the pipes were fat enough that you could get YouTube to become the fastest growing website in the history of the world. And so, to some degree, I think we're laying the pipes today for crypto, like we were laying the pipes for the internet in 2001, 2002, 2003, during those very, very cold years. And so, in my view, it's not a question of if, it's more a question of when. Nobody knows the answer to that. We all hope it's sooner rather than later. If you take a look at Amazon, peak price in 1999, it didn't hit that peak again until 2009. So, hopefully, we're not going to have a 10-year. I think everything in crypto is compressed, but we're coming up now on 2 years since we hit the last high. Is it going to be 3 years or 4 years till we retrace that? Nobody knows. But again, things like multi-collateral DAI and Uniswap is what gives me confidence that we'll get there again.
Yeah, certainly, there does seem to be innovation rife out there in the field. It'll be interesting to see how it does develop. But I love your spirit of optimism, Lou. I look forward to it all panning out as true and us getting to report on it here at BLOCKTV. So for those at home, make sure you stay with us at blocktv.com for all the latest in news and information. I'm Asher Westrop Evans. Thanks for watching.
For more news and updates, follow us on Twitter.